Hey guys, Mike here. So as I told you yesterday, not a lot of news coming out as far as the economy, things of that nature. Very light day in that. And of course, we did have something come out about about 9,000 different retail stores and stuff, how they reported, and so, slightly more than surely those sales keep going up. We had that come out, but really nothing else. All right, that's why you really didn't see some crazy swings like we've seen the last week and a half, right? But what I do want to talk to you about is something that could absolutely affect the indexes over the next week or two for sure if it actually plays out. We'll go into detailed stuff about Tesla for sure. And then we'll talk about Palantir. They had earnings and what to watch on that one. And then, we got a boatload of earnings coming up tomorrow. Like, look at that. Ooh, yeah, that's a lot. So we're going to get into that. But first, I want to get into the sector that could really have an effect on the indexes going forward, especially the Qs. And it's going to be the semiconductors, right? And when you look, you see this equal highs, right? Some people like to call it a double top. And you also see down at the RSI, what's it doing, right? So it's setting lower highs right now. And when you look over, the one thing about the SMH, which is the Van X Semiconductor ETF, it loves equal highs. And you can see, usually when you get this bearish divergence, a lot of times it does play out. It may take time, but it does play out. And when we go over here, and we're just going to pull up double top indicator in TradeView. If you got this, or you just type it in right here. And you can see it loves double tops. And they don't play out to the T, but they do. You do end up normally getting a sell-off, right? So you can see going back there, that was July. Here's another one. Here's another one. And so again, it loves these double tops, and what's been on a tear has been semiconductors, right? You saw NVDA trade up over 700 last night, which is just nuts in after hours, okay? And finally sold off some today. Imagine that. But they've just been on a tear, and after AMD's last earnings, because they didn't have this crazy forward guidance, it's like, okay, do you finally start to see weakness? Okay, and when I see double tops, double bottoms, that kind of stuff, I don't expect them to play out down to the target at all. But do you get some sort of a sell-off? And normally, as you can see with SMH, you do. Now, of course, in order for this to happen, what do you got to see? You got to see NVIDIA start showing more weakness, right? Which, of course, you saw some sell-off today, but that's because it went up over 700. It came down, filled this RTH gap right there to the penny, and sucked back up, right? And so here you also have a fair value gap. So even if it does start to sell down, it's most likely going to get a bounce right there on that trend line or where that fair value gap is, okay? Depending, of course, of what, big money finally does, how much they want to push this up. But then, of course, you got AMD. What are you seeing now? Lower highs, but you do not have the lower low, okay? So then maybe this is forming a channel down to that trend line. It's got some good support probably right below it right there. So don't be surprised there. And so, but again, in order for this to happen, this double top, to play out, you have to have these two stocks especially start showing more weakness, okay? And that line, to get down that trend line, it's not much, okay? It's not really a big percentage. And so, but if these sell off, guess what? You're going to have the indexes definitely start to sell off, because semis have been carrying up this market quite a bit because it's the forefront of the AI hype, right? And so you can see the MACD is like, okay. It's been riding up. It's had quite a ride, okay? Let's just keep that in mind. And so now, what does that mean for the indexes? And guys, before we continue, if you hit that thumbs up, I'd certainly appreciate it. It helps people find the video. And if you like the content, think about subscribing. And that leads us to the S&P. What are we doing? We're sitting right at the top of this channel once again. Very close to that 5,000 target right there. Some people say 5,000. Some people say around 5,200 for maybe you finally get some kind of weakness in this market showing off. Remember the NASDAQ composite, we still have not reached all-time highs. The SPY has, the Qs has, the Dow has. This one has not, okay? And you can see it's not too far away. But again, what are you seeing? Again, bearish divergence on the RSI. Okay, we've seen this in the past before we had a sell down, and we also saw it when we were sitting at the top of a channel, okay? So usually, it's been in this channel since, September of 2022. And so it's respected this channel. We'll see if that is the case again. It could just continue to grind up, right? Don't be surprised. But again, if semiconductors start to show weakness, then most likely you will start to see at least some form of weakness. Doesn't mean a big sell-off. Doesn't mean anything like that. It could be 3%, 5%, that kind of stuff. But again, that's what we're looking at. And of course, it's being February and a 50-50 crapshoot right now. That's what we got to pay attention to. IWMs, the opposite, right? It's already been showing weakness, right? You're getting these lower highs, but when you look, you were having lower lows. I guess you can call that lower there if you want to. But again, this other low over here, okay, are we starting maybe to start an uptrend right here, reversal, or is this going to start to come down and set a new lower low? That's what we got to look at. What's funny about this is usually the trigger for those highly shorted stocks like Affirm, Upstart, Carvana, which all report earnings here coming up soon, to start busting out. So if you see this start to move up, that's kind of your confirmation that those really highly shorted stocks could make a big move. I just hate they're doing earnings right now. But you can see when we pull up the volume profile, it's just setting in this volume gap, right? So it can move up very quickly to that next resistance level. It can move down to the next support level. Again, you have all those moving averages. It broke the 50, but you still have the 100 and 200 tied together right there at the same level that next support is, around like 187, I believe it is. Again, there's a lot of anchor VWAPs there, which I'm not going to show you. I showed you last time, about 3 of them. So there is a lot of support, but if that MACD goes below that 0 line, all bets are off. So just keep that in mind. Now, there comes a Tesla. We'll get some detailed stuff here. You can see, obviously, been in a downtrend since December. When you look at this right here, it's bounced off of it multiple times, all right? But when we look at this, are we finally starting to form a bottom? Here's what you want to look for. You want to look for a breakout of that line, okay? If that has the breakout, which of course obviously has resistance to it, but if you do, you look at the MACD, look at the RSI, right? Again, that RSI on the daily is forming a bullish MACD cross, or trying to form a bullish MACD cross. But more importantly, the RSI is still oversold. But when it crosses between like 30, 32, somewhere in that area, that usually signifies the bottom for Tesla. Why do we know these two things combine? And actually, not only that, but the bottom of the channel. So now you have the bottom of the channel, the MACD, and your RSI, right? And you have that trend line if it busts out of that. But when you look, obviously you see as soon as it comes back between like 30, 32 and breaks above that, and we're at the bottom of the channel, about a couple of days later, you get a bullish MACD cross to really confirm it. So you get a second confirmation. You get these moves. It's not straight up. Okay, it's up, roll over, pop back up, trade sideways, keep moving, right? But these are big percentage moves overall, which take about a few weeks to play out for sure. But this is what you're looking for. So you have 4 different things to look for. Also, when we pull in our volume profile on this one, you can see, obviously, bearish on your moving averages. What does that mean? Last time it happened, you had both the 50 and 100 crossover, give that what they call a death cross and stuff. Went up 16%, dropped, went up, dropped, and then popped, right? So, because this is the most highly traded stock there is. And if it breaks above that line, it's going to come into a volume gap on the volume profile. What else are we seeing? Bottom feeders on the TSLL. They're buying these basically, not leaps because they're not a year out, but it's January 17, 1273 contracts on the Tesla ETF. And so, they're saying, okay, maybe this is a bottom, and they're trying to get one of those big moves up, right? And they're buying pretty far out. And so it gives them time to be right on this. And if Tesla obviously moves, this thing's going to go way past 1273 probably. But again, this is something else you're seeing. Now, let's just talk about this real quick, because I've been calling BS on this for a long time. Obviously, we have always talked about this robo-taxi thing that people keep pricing into Tesla, and it's going to happen. Elon talks about it and everything. And you can see what's happened with GM. Basically, some accident happened. Who knows if they tried to cover it up. Doesn't really matter. That's really not the part I'm looking at. But remember, this is in California, folks. Okay, the most friendliest state to EVs. Okay, I mean, I think, didn't they pass some law about how all cars sold by a certain year have to be EVs or something like that? So the most EV conscious state there is. And you can see what happened. California suspended the company's driverless testing license, and Cruise, which is owned by GM, pulled all its U.S. self-driving vehicles from testing. Also cut 24% of its workforce, and said last week it was cutting spending by about $1 billion on this Cruise program. And the reason why I bring this up, because remember, this is supposed to be, part of the Tesla brand, right? We've heard about it for how long now? About how you're going to come home, go to sleep, and you just let your car go out by itself and tell Tesla, yeah, you can take it from 10 to 2 or whatever, and it was going to drive off, and when you woke up, you have money in your account, right? That's the whole feature of this, right? And I just got to ask, if you're a lawyer out there, please let me know. 1, who has liability on this? It's your car. So if it goes out and hits an individual, or something happens, an accident happens, who's liable? You think, is it Tesla? Is it you, the car owner? right? I mean, do you really think Tesla is going to take responsibility of however many hundreds of thousands of Teslas around this country are going to be driving in this tax program? You think they're going to take responsibility for that? Do you have any idea what your insurance would cost? Can you imagine that? Insurance is already expensive on vehicles. If you tell your insurance company, oh yeah, by the way, my car is going to be out driving itself as a robo-taxi, you have any idea what that insurance is going to cost you? So I hope you're making a lot of money as a robo-taxi. Then you have the regulations. Look, I think that was one accident, if I'm not mistaken, I read about in California. Again, the most friendly EV state out there. And they have taken their license away. So all it takes is one accident. And can you imagine Texas, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, Arkansas, Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina, I can name a bunch of others who aren't the friendliest when it comes to EVs. Like, they're going to be as open as California. And you know, if one accident happens, that thing's getting shut down, right? And so that's another thing is what is the market pricing in on this? Because I've told people for a long time, first of all, if it ever happens, I'll be stunned. But if it is going to happen, it's going to take a long time. And you're going to have to go state by state to get it done, okay? And Tesla had to go through this before just to get their cars to be bought in states, because in some states you couldn't even buy a car, you couldn't even buy a Tesla. There might still be some states like that, right? Because of the franchising laws. So again, that's just my thoughts on it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. And I'm just coming at it from a logical perspective, right? Good luck to it, just because I know how the government works, because I've done plenty of research on that. But, you know, love to hear your perspectives. Maybe I'm missing something, okay? But that's something that, again, has to be priced into this stock. Like, where is this revenue coming from? It's a tech company. If it's a tech company, not a car company, you got to have more tech revenues coming in or something. And to me, that's tech revenue. I think that is technology, right? Autonomous driving. Now that leads us to Palantir. It's what we talked about on Sunday, right? It had a big gap up, not gap down because of why? Earnings. Gap right over all the resistance right there. Fair value gaps, trend lines, moving averages, you name it. Boom, there it went. Okay, big move up right there. MACD crossing that zero line. You know, where's it going to go? Obviously, if you look at the volume profile here, you can say 24.25. I believe those are the ones I got marked there, like RTH gaps and where it gapped down before. And so you could have those targets in mind. Let's wait and see. Obviously, we got what? Our 3 to 5 day rule when we look at this. And so they're going to say, okay, you know, is it going to continue to move up? Is it going to trade sideways? Is it going to pull a SoFi and just give all the earnings back? Because why did it move up so hard today? It's in a volume gap, right? And so it still has room to continue to move up to that next level. But again, you got to give it 3 to 5 days, right? You're sitting here on the weekly chart and you got a bullish MACD cross. That is a good thing, all right? Some people are picking targets of like, you know, anywhere from $24, $28 on this move. We continue to melt up because I'm sure the shorts obviously are covering today for sure. So now over the next, that's why you want to wait 3 to 5 days, right? For the shorts to cover to see what you actually have. Okay, everybody thought we knew good in SoFi, and SoFi gave all this stuff back. So again, let's give it 3 to 5 days. Let's see what happens. We've seen these, you know, big moves up before, and so we'll see what happens there. Now, when it comes to other earnings and possible gap ups and gap downs, loaded tomorrow. Okay, you'll have Baba, Uber, CVS Health, Roblox. Then you'll end up going with PayPal, Walt Disney, Wynn. And so lots of popular stocks. And then when it comes to economic data, another light day. It looks really heavy, but as far as what would affect the market, I don't think used car sales is going to do it. I don't think oil data is going to do it. Got a 10-year note auction, which could affect yields. And then we'll get a lot of Fed speakers talking again, you know, and they've all been kind of carrying the same note, which is it's going to be data dependent. Maybe I'll feel comfortable voting in you know, either May, June, July, that kind of stuff, if we keep going this route of the economic data. And so that's kind of the party line they're towing right now. But again, right now with, you know, the S&P, you see it, with the NASDAQ, you see it at the top of these channels. That's where we're just going to have to see, are we going to respect the channels and start moving back down, grind up the top of them until we reach all-time highs on the NASDAQ composite, reach 5,000, 5,100 on the S&P, already finally going to start to show some weakness. And I think a lot of this will come from semiconductors if it happens, okay, if it happens. But again, if this AI pump just continues, I mean, nobody thought NVIDIA was going to be going over 700 in after hours, right? But it did. But I'm definitely really interested to watch AMD more. I want to see how it's reacting, and does money start to flow out of AMD after the last earnings call and go into NVIDIA, right? A lot of people, I'll tell you right now, when I read about it, are thinking NVIDIA is going to be where you finally get a huge pop on NVIDIA earnings and then finally get a pullback down. Like, that's going to be that. People want to see a blow off top. I don't know if it's going to be a blow off top, but kind of that last little push up before we finally start grabbing internal liquidity to try to move back up. And so we'll see if that's the case. And we're in the months, February and then March, where that normally does happen, but we'll see. So anyway, if you got something out of it, please hit that like and subscribe button. If you do like a channel that doesn't try to talk over your head and act like a genius, hit that subscribe button as well. Always like it. Appreciate all your feedback. Appreciate all you guys who do share the videos and everything and watch them all the way to the end. You're the best, and I'll see you tomorrow.